So Eisenhower authorized in 1955 U.S. advisors to go to Vietnam. So really, the U.S. was involved in Vietnam for 20 years, from 1955 to 1975. It's the longest war that the United States has ever fought. 20 years. When they first started sending military advisors, special forces primarily, in to work with the Vietnamese. It became such that the North Vietnamese and Ho Chi Minh and General Giap, their guerrilla activities was so manifest that the U.S. and the other allies began to pour more and more men and personnel and equipment and supplies in to support the, I think Diem was the Vietnamese ruler at that time. The American forces launched this campaign of defoliation to eliminate their cover and concealment, which is Agent Orange, of course. And that's why a lot of people are still affected that served in Vietnam are still affected by the or the after effects of Agent Orange if they were exposed to it. Agent Orange similar to, I guess, Roundup. Now, if you were sprayed with Roundup, you're going to have health problems. It is hard to win a war if you have restrictions on offensive operations. Any military person can tell you that. It is hard, almost difficult to win a war if you're restricted in your offensive operations. They could not go to where the enemy was. They could not physically send ground troops. They were restricted to send ground troops into North Vietnam. After the war was prolonged so long, people got tired of war. You began to have massive anti-war demonstrations. Jane Fonda went over there and had her picture posed with an anti-aircraft gun with the North Vietnamese. John Kerry came back. He was supposedly on the Swift boats, the naval boats in the Delta. He came back, testified before Congress that the war was wrong. They were killing babies. So the public opinion turned against the United States being involved thousands of miles away in a war that they felt was not in the national interest of the United States. Finally, the United States, they signed an agreement, and the United States was going to pull all of its forces out by a certain date. The South Vietnamese were fairly strong at that point militarily, but their government was weak and corrupt, similar to Afghanistan. If the United States pulls out of Afghanistan now, it won't be long before the Taliban assumes control again because of the corruption and weakness of Karzai. But then you had these anti-war demonstrations, and this was fueled by the media sending back constant reports and the testimony in Congress, these activists going over and doing everything they can to try to get the United States out of the war. With the United States pulling out and a weak government, there was some stiff resistance with some of the units of South Vietnam, but they were overwhelmed. And once the rout starts, it's hard to stop. So they began to attack from all areas from that point in Vietnam. They captured Hue and went along and continued further south, and it came to the point that you had a mass evacuation, an immediate evacuation. It was the largest helicopter evacuation in the history of the United States or the world. You can remember seeing the people on the USMC trying to hang on to the rudders of the helicopter, trying to evacuate.